Good morning, everybody. Thanks, everybody, for having us. Looking forward to the conversation and building on some of the themes that we've heard about today. To get started, I'll have each of the panelists introduce themselves, and as you do that, tell us kind of who you are, who you work with, and then give a little nugget about how you apply omni-channel thinking in your role.
All right. Hi, I'm Lisa Bialecki, another Lisa. It's the day of the Lisas. I oversee communications at Rust-Oleum Corporation, and 100-year-old coatings and everything else kind of manufacturer. And Ricky, what did you ask us? What is our question?
Share how you apply omni-channel thinking in your role.
How we apply everything we do is omni-channel. I feel like we are very scrappy with how we reach consumers, and we focus on their path to purchase, understanding how they use media, how they're inspired. So how do I get somebody to take on a paint project? Well, there's a lot of emotion around that. It's the project itself rather than what kind of paint. Like, who sells the best paint? That's okay, but I want to grow the market. So yeah, we really focus on where they are. So they're spending a lot of time on Pinterest, a lot of time in social channels. TikTok is the best thing ever for us. TikTok made me paint it. So yeah, making sure that we reach them and then retarget them in all different kinds of places. We've heard a lot of test and learn, and we do that all of the time.
Jeff?
Good morning. Jeff Giacchetti. I'm the Programmatic Media Lead in North America at Colgate-Palmolive. The way I apply omnichannel thinking, I'd say is really analogous to building a puzzle, in that it's really about all of the pieces coming together against a unifying strategy. So that's business units, priorities, channels, and tactics, really laddering up to a single unifying strategy. I think from that unifying strategy, you can then build a holistic consumer brand experience. And that holistic consumer brand experience, that is your completed puzzle. To the degree there are pieces missing in that puzzle or not connected gaps, then you're always going to have your communication will be incomplete. It'll just be deficit.
Hi, everyone. Marcia, Resnick. I lead e-commerce marketing at Pernod, Ricard. Omnichannel is really a constant in everything we do. E-commerce is a relatively new sales channel within our industry. And because we know that consumers are fluidly moving between the offline and online in the transition to e-commerce and the adoption of e-commerce within the beverage alcohol industry, it has to be omni-channel because there is this fluidity across consumer touch points. And so I would say that it really touches every single aspect of what we do.
All right, thanks, y'all. So we're going to get started, and our first question today is going to center on content. Lisa, one of the things that you talked about here in your introduction, as well as we got to know each other in advance, is the proliferation of trends, the importance of that content to your audience, that DIYer generating those new projects. But there's new trends on what seems like a minute-by-minute basis. So can you talk a little bit about how you identify the ones worth pursuing, and then what you're doing to help go create that new content to seize the opportunity before it's passed and the next trend is there?
Yeah, the timing is really important for that. So trends are changing, colors that people are using are changing. I just saw an article pop up about grandma cottage kitchens. So if you didn't know about that one, that's really important. But we look very closely. We have these data dashboards living in our, like a lot of you, in our social space. So we look at social listening. We pay close attention to the Pinterest Trends Report. They're really on target usually. Searches, what people are, what they're searching for, how those trends change. And then we have an in-house studio where we can create that content very quickly. We're also building what we call their digital marketing hubs or brand accelerators, where we have dedicated teams for each one of our brands. And we've started with our Varathane stain brand, We have 3 people who their entire job is to, every single day, look at trends, look at what words people are using, what colors people are using. We have a full-time photo video producer and a strategist. And so those 3 people just focus on that one brand all of the time. And our challenge actually came from our president. We've been acquiring a lot of companies over the past few years. And he saw all these startups and he said, you know, all these startups have like 3 scrappy people who are really knocking out content all the time. Why don't we do that? And so we did, and we're seeing, you know, test and learn, always looking at optimizing that content. What style of content performs better? Influencer content is always great. If you have people who are celebrating that project, it performs really well. But then we'll see, like for Varathane, wood species. So if you have a walnut stain and you stain pine or at 5 different types of wood, it'll look a little bit different. So just showing those, you know, what that looks like and how your end project turns out. But it's ongoing. We're always learning. And it's amazing how the type of content can so dramatically affect the engagement.
So some other content challenges that we had talked about were thinking around personalizing content for specific consumers or audiences, or tailoring campaign content to the consumer journey. Marcia, Jeff, wanted to ask if you could speak to some of those challenges that you're facing when it comes to content and how you're approaching those problems.
Sure, I'm happy to jump in there. I think we all know that content needs to be optimized by touchpoint along the path to purchase. What works well within in-store POS is different from what works well on a billboard, TV. Even when you think about social media, what works well on Pinterest is different than what works well on Facebook and Instagram. And we are getting smarter about how we tailor our content through a robust testing agenda. And I was just starting to laugh because testing is obviously a very prominent theme today. Through a robust testing agenda and continuing to iterate, as well as through different kinds of MarTech that can help us optimize our content as well. Thinking a little bit broader, we as an organization are highly consumer-centric, and I know that every organization considers themselves to be highly consumer-centric, but we define consumer centricity by being data-informed and data-led in how we develop our campaigns. And so what this means for us is over the last 2 years, our consumer and shopper insights team has been collecting, analyzing, interrogating consumer data signals that then inform the type of content that we're developing. We also have a channel marketing team, experts by channel who really understand their shoppers, who can then tailor and adapt the various content that the brands are developing to be specifically optimized for those channels. So all that just to say is that we know that optimized content is highly important. We are laser focused on ensuring that we are communicating the right set of content to the right consumer at the right time to make sure that we are capturing consumer demand in the right occasion.
For us, you know, very similar to what Marcia just said, is that identity and audience insights really underpin personalization, and you know, and that really acts as a North Star for us in building and sharing content. You know, this notion of building content and, you know, being late to the party, as it were, you know, it's a very real thing, and something that we're striving to get better at. In terms of the challenges and the way we try to overcome that, you know, missing that trend, really is by storytelling. So, you know, if you're just building ads and not experiences, it really doesn't matter when you serve an ad or if you're on time or you're not on time. No one's going to remember it, right? And you're not going to get attention, right? So the you know, actually gaining attention is the gateway to memorability. Once you have memorability, your message will always be current. So really the key takeaway here is just make your advertising memorable, and you won't miss the boat.
Thanks, everybody. So shifting gears a little bit, we're going to move from content to e-commerce. And Marcia, in our prep call for this, you made an interesting observation when you talked about e-commerce as both a channel and a touch point. And so I wanted to ask if you could share for the group a little bit about what you mean by that and what its implications are for brands who are going out and activating in e-commerce.
Sure. I was actually thinking about this when Lisa was speaking earlier about the omnichannel planning topic. The modern day consumer, as we all know, shifts so fluidly between the offline and online touch points. And what that means is that the e-commerce store and the brick and mortar store have evolved in the purpose that they serve. A consumer may hear about a product from a friend, get served a Facebook ad, see a billboard, listen to a podcast, research online, check it out in store, buy in store, and then write a review online. And so these various touch points are so intertwined between online and offline, both from a marketing touch point perspective as well as a channel touch point perspective. And so when we think about the brick and mortar store, it may be that a consumer goes in there and first learns about a brand, experiences a brand, in my industry, tastes a brand. Or it could be something extremely transactional, like they're just picking up a purchase that they made online by a click and collect. Likewise, within e-commerce, a consumer may be researching a product, discovering a product, or they might just be price matching and, again, doing a quite transactional, utilizing e-commerce quite transactionally as a sales channel. And so I think as we think about what is e-commerce and what is brick and mortar for the future, it's that both of these are evolved and they are both sales channels and touch points that are stronger together.
And I think what's interesting about that is the way in which there are so many different avenues to reach the consumer through not just kind of point of purchase, but also through larger media strategies. And we talked about different approaches like retailer media, shoppable media. Jeff, Lisa, if y'all wanted to kind of speak to how you're thinking about driving consumers from that top of funnel awareness and bringing in new strategies to pull them down through the funnel.
Sure, yeah. Our e-commerce team is really amazing, and that it also includes our D2C group. We are highly connected in terms of e-com and national media, but we're getting more and more connected through our audience management systems that really allow us to share audiences and insights across business units and priorities, which, as I mentioned at the opening, is key to having that kind of unified strategy and that holistic consumer brand experience. What I would say is that having these strategies connected, it allows us to think, and specifically having retail media. Let's be clear. I mean, I think we're at a major intersection event, not just between content and commerce, but across consumer journeys, and having that high fidelity, high signal retailer media data really helps us understand kind of what those intersection points are and where those areas of as Marcia mentioned, multi-touch points between e-com and what you might call branding or national media exist. From that, what are the right KPIs that are most meaningful to follow? And then from there, we build creative that's designed for that audience and that touch point. So whether it's interactive units or using QR codes to start the story in one channel, say connected TV, and then continue it on a mobile device through a QR code or voice-enabled device, remote. that kind of thing. It's really about connecting those touch points, and retail media and that data is really giving us great line of sight into that.
Yeah, I mean, we're very similar. Retail media has been wonderful and very challenging for us. It's limiting, but it is also imperative for that customer journey, making sure that we're partnering with the retailers in the very best way. Also in aisle, a lot of our products are a little bit not difficult. They're, people may not have the confidence that they need to code a garage floor, let's say, or identify a new, technology in our spray system. So being able to have that video in aisle and really explain that, make them feel better, and know all the other things that they need to purchase is helpful as well. But yeah, retail media, I could talk about retail media all day, and later on, catch me with a cocktail.
So, and for our final question, we'll shift from retail media and third-party data to first-party data. As we look at the landscape, we all know that the marketing kind of cookie landscape is shifting, and the importance of first-party data continues to grow and will be a key part of marketing agendas for years to come. Jeff, this one's directed to you. Wanted to ask, in your role as programmatic media lead, you clearly have kind of firsthand sight of how that first-party data gets activated. Can you give kind of some examples of where you've seen the benefits as well as some of the limitations that you're encountering?
Okay. And I just have to remember, this isn't the round table, so I've got to just be careful.
A foretaste of what's to come.
No, first, so even before all the kind of whipsaw announcements from Google and this kind of mad dash for first-party data, at CP we've been, seeking, strong, signals, audience signals, and we've been, really invested in first-party data, which, in my opinion, is absolutely worth the investment, the time and resources to build. I think it's really the only data that's worth it. But that being said, obviously there are challenges with first-party data, collecting it, making sure that it's compliant, and then just having as much of it as you can. So we're constantly testing first-party data imbued with third-party data sets, be that purchase-based or model data and even contextual data to really understand how best to use it. So it's definitely a work in progress, but it's it's definitely showing green shoots in terms of the performance uptick. And I would say, specific to that, we've used first-party data as a seed into campaigns we've run within walled gardens, and there is definitely an effectiveness, uptick. So, we're on the right track with it, and it's definitely showing that it's been worth the investment. We continue to, resource against it.
Thanks, Jeff. Marcia, Lisa, how are your brands using first-party data to go activate in the marketplace?
We don't sell direct, so first-party data it's very challenging because we want to drive to the retailer for that sale. And if we have that first-party, it's kind of our media team is very upset about it. They want the first-party data not to drive to the retailer, and we just want to sell stuff. So we have a little different situation, but I know, Marcia, you're D2C, so that's a little...
Yes, actually, so within beverage alcohol, there's a lot of legal limitations. And so from a legal perspective, we are quite rarely at the final point of the transaction. We're DTC within wines and spirits only. Wines and champagnes only, no spirits. And so first-party data is challenging within our category, and that doesn't mean that we don't have it. We have it. We collect it through various other consumer interactions. We also work with some partners that have first-party data that allow us to target those audiences without transferring proprietary PII, which makes our media more effective. But I think more broadly, we also think about a consumer data strategy as existing beyond first-party data. And so we are also thinking about what we know from various studies that we've done around consumer demand. And we know that context is also really important. And so between the first-party data that we have, the insights that we have from various studies that we've done, as well as other contextual targeting, we are able to very precisely target contextually, which also helps to deliver a more personalized experience and a more relevant experience for our consumers.
All right. Well, thanks to the three of you. We're going to wrap up now and open the floor for questions.
Anyone have questions? Show of hands. Okay, well, I do have one. I always do. And it's actually more directed to you, Marcia, but it could lead into, you talk about how you're really conscious about making sure all of your, wherever channel you're using, you want to be true to that channel and make sure your creative is true to it. But budget-wise, how is that possible in terms of, is there a way that you're doing it? Is there something that you're able to create, maybe how you're presenting whatever ads you're doing on each channel, but use maybe a base and then you just kind of tweak it, or are you having to redo and redo? Like, that must be so expensive.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the overarching campaign content must be consistent, right? Regardless of the touch point. And so probably a less expensive route and also a better customer experience route is for that campaign content to just be tailored to each of these channels rather than developing new content for each channel, because that allows for a cohesive consumer experience across all touch points, even if it is more tailored by touch point, more optimized by touch point.
Got it. Oh, someone here?
Hi, Stephen Permoy with Epsilon. Jeff briefly mentioned that you're looking at KPIs that were more meaningful to follow. So I was curious for the panel, dealing with first and second party data now, as it's becoming more mature, what KPIs are you following now that you haven't previously, just dealing with third party data or what was available to you programmatically?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really isn't so much data specific as it is, I would say, KPIs that are kind of connected to parts of the journey. But that being said, I will say that attention is really a KPI that is becoming taking a larger stage I'd say, in a lot of the ways that we're looking at not just awareness KPIs, but also KPIs that might exist further down a funnel in the user journey. So just that's one KPI that I think is really worth exploring, and we're certainly doing that.
Jamie from White Castle. I was struck by something Lisa said about growing the category. And I just wondered, for anyone on the panel, as you think about being customer-centric and omnichannel, how much monitoring of competition is there in terms of knowing who's where first? Or is that part of the mindset and the consideration?
Yeah, we actually, as part of our data dashboards, we look very closely at what all of our competitors are doing, how many people are talking about our competitors, the sentiment, the value there, really measuring against that, making sure that we're beating them, always. But yeah, it's very important to us. There aren't a lot of competitors in the space, so it's a little easier. It's, just a few.
Okay, we have a question back here.
Probably for Jeff and Marcia. Oh, sorry. Hi, my name is Tulsi Patel, Johnson & Johnson Consumer. Thank you guys for a great panel. I had a question, probably for anyone up there, but maybe more Lisa and Jeff. Have there been conversations, discussions, and if so, what are they like at your companies around exploring DTC, whether it's full-blown DTC light through Shopify, anything that's come up, as you guys mentioned, the challenges around first-party data, and Jeff, specifically around the value that you've seen in including that as some of your media campaigns?
We're launching our first D2C effort in July. And I can talk more about it later. It is not a category that we currently sell with a retailer, so something new. It's definitely much more complicated than I expected it to be. So my team is leading this effort, and as a publicly traded company who uses SAP, all of that back-end stuff took 3 times as long as we expected it to. I can say, though, because of that first-party data that we'll have access to and the ability to have shoppable ads and really take that test and learn, up there and every day, and it's a new category for us, I'm really excited. Definitely geeked out about that one.
Yeah, that's a great question. At Colgate-Palmolive, we actually have a D2C business, and so that's our shop.colgate, area. But it's as I mentioned earlier, the audience management systems that we're now really all as a cohesive organization, business units are feeding into. We're really starting to understand, what those intersection points are in the journey for various audiences coming in from different places. But no question that D2C audience is so invaluable. It's so rich, and just thinking about how and when we bring people there, or when we talk to people who might be in earlier stages of research and just fact finding, if you will. That data is helping us kind of feed those insights. So yeah, we're continuing to grow that side of our business and incorporate it with our overall e-commerce group, and then certainly our CRM practice.
All right, great, guys. Oh,
Sorry,
really?
I have a question for Jeff. Sorry. So how do you, with your retail customers, do they consider you a competitor when you're selling direct?
No, not at all. No. The products that we sell specifically on our D2C site, they tend to be, a very specific part of our portfolio. It's not, again, something that really runs too much in the way of our retail partners. But yeah, you had said it earlier. It's absolutely a fine line, and how we use those audiences, we're always just looking to maximize how we can always support our retail customers, but also be able to collect that invaluable first-party data. And it's not always easy, and I think that's the big takeaway. You said it perfectly.
Thanks.
Okay, and Jeff, I didn't have to get the hook to you, so we're good. Well, thank you so much, Jeff, Lisa, Marcia, and of course, Ricky, for being a great moderator. Everyone.